Up until this point, I've always used fresh plants when making my dye. Whether it be flowers, leaves, or anything else, I just use the plant directly from the source. But I've been curious to know what it would take to turn some of these plants into powder. So that's what I'll be doing in this video. The two plants that I chose to make dye powder are naupaka and hibiscus. These are plants that I have in abundance. I've propagated and grown my own naupaka leaves. I have so many now. If you saw the original short video that I uploaded a while back about when I was first figuring out how to propagate this plant, it was just a little stick and now it has really grown a lot. It needs to be repotted or put in the ground because it is just going and going. So I'll be using some of these leaves to make green dye powder. This is one of my favorite plants to use to make green. It makes so many variations of the color. The hibiscus blooms stay open for one day and then they fall from the plant to the ground. So I'll just be collecting some from there. My first idea with the leaves was to hang them to dry, and I did share a picture on my community tab once where I did that, but I found that the color, did not stay consistent. So what I'm going to be doing is just using my oven to dehydrate these leaves, and the same for the hibiscus petals. I don't have a dehydrator. That might be more ideal, but what I do is I just place them on cookie sheets and put them in the oven on warm. So the setting is about 170 degrees and leave them there for an hour to an hour and a half and they'll dry out. For these processes, I used maybe 20 leaves and 10 or 12 hibiscus blossoms. That's about the same number I would use of each if I were using them fresh. Now this is going to give me an opportunity to finally use my mortar and pestle that I got from a thrift store months and months ago. It's just been sitting on a shelf in my home. I haven't used it for anything. So I'm going to see how it goes grinding up naupaka leaves and hibiscus petals. I really couldn't believe the price they had on this item at the thrift shop. It was a one-digit number and I was just blown away because I've always wanted a nice one like this. For it to be so affordable made it even better. My youngest daughter decided she wanted to give it a try. And just watching this reminds me of a comment and question that was left on one of my videos about activities for toddlers and for children in regard to making natural plant dyes. In particular, I was asked about activities that could help them expend some energy, and there are a few that I can talk about. When it comes to that, my 4-year-old has so much energy, and sometimes she just wants to hit and throw things and bang around. So I give her activities sometimes to do that with plant dyeing, and I will address that in a video pretty soon. I think that will be a great topic. Okay, so I think the mortar and pestle went well for the time allotted, but we're going to move on and grind up the leaves the rest of the way in this coffee grinder, which belonged to my late husband. This was so nostalgic for me using this. Yeah. And you can see the powder here. how it turned out. We're moving on to the hibiscus. We're going to try to pound it first, and then we're going to also run this through the coffee grinder. If you haven't done so already, you can visit plantdyefortextiles.com, and I have a post on my blog there about how it was the death of my husband back in 2021 that motivated me to get into plant dyeing. I was looking just for a way to process grief, and so this really helped me to do that. And that post is on my blog. You can check it out sometime. So that was the powder from the hibiscus dye. And now I'm going to move on to see about, right there, I was just gathering up some more petals. I'm going to see about going ahead and pouring this into a jar and adding water. Now this video is going to be a part 1. I'm going to do a second part because I'm not going to complete the dyeing in this video. I just want to see right here, how it is adding water to it. Almost immediately, I realized I should have dissolved this powder in hot water. So when I do part 2, I'll do this correctly. And I'll also do it with the naupaka leaves, which will probably need to be boiled. In my experience with naupaka leaves, I've always had to boil them. There hasn't been a time where I've just put them in a jar of water in the sun and got dye from them. It always takes boiling. So I'm thinking I'm going to do the same thing with the powder, but that may not be necessary. So in part 2, I'm going to experiment with all of that. I just wanted to go ahead and show you guys this process of making powder from plants. I really hope that this was helpful and inspirational to you. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thanks so much for watching.